It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
I am Jordan Hanalami.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Good to be back.
Oh, it's great to see you, George. So glad you could visit us. I have a particular love of World War II stories.
Yeah?
For some reason, it brings almost tears to my eyes when I see heroic things happen.
It is, and I heard, I was actually just listening to somebody talking about A League of Their Own recently, and talking about the timelessness of World War II and just any films in that era, and how you can always go back to it and it's always the same setting.
Well, the one we're doing today called Operation Mincemeat, can you believe that title?
I can't. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
And it was all an attempt at deception.
Yes.
And it's on Netflix.
Yeah, and should clarify, because I watched it with my wife, and at the outset, she immediately asked before the movie started, is this a comedy or is this a drama? Because as you noted, that name can throw you.
Exactly.
It almost sounds like something that Steve Carell would be in.
Exactly.
But it's a serious drama, to make sure everybody knows.
In order to fool Hitler, they had to choose, as I can figure it, they had to choose a goofy title.
Yeah.
So that the Germans wouldn't take it
As
seriously.
opposed to Operation Trojan Horse, which
Yeah,
they were
right,
worried was a little too on the nose.
I know, it really was. So can you set it up for us?
Yeah, we're about I guess about halfway through the war. I believe it's 1943
Exactly.
when the film takes place, and they're in a setting where, excuse me, some of the officials in the British Army are attempting to thwart what they believe is an invasion by Hitler to Sicily, or them coming to Sicily. He's anticipating.
Everybody, even somebody in the movie says, if you just get yourself a simple atlas, you can tell where they're going to go, because they just pushed Rommel back on North Africa.
Right.
And so they're hot to go. The Allies are hot to go into Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And Italy was the nearest place. Sicily was the nearest. It was the obvious. So what they wanted Germany to do, the Nazis, is to think they were going to Greece.
Yeah.
And
So they're attempting to figure out a plan to do that, and it's all great movie setups for plans like this. It's far-fetched, and the higher-ups think it's totally ridiculous, and but just so ridiculous that it might work.
Oh, Jordan, I always love when we see Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Simon Russell Beale, or whatever his name is, as Churchill here, and Churchill is just as feisty, an older guy who really will go for the gamble.
It's such a lived-in character that people, every time I feel like when somebody plays him, it's just so embodied.
Oh yeah.
To take it on.
So and if you love the intrigue, which I do, it is so multi-layered. You've got one of the first things you have to do is figure out who you can tell in your own line, in your own chain of command.
Exactly. Yeah, they're working with the is it the group of 20?
Yeah, that's right, 20.
But yeah, they have their circle, and then there's, of course, from there, inner circles of the inner circles, and people playing it off against each other and stuff. One of my favorite stern faces to show up in any British type roles and stuff, Jason Isaacs, is kind of I guess a bit of the kind of antagonist from within the ranks, is the person they're trying to convince to be able to do some of these outlandish efforts. But yeah.
The key deception is what, George?
Excuse me. Essentially, having I guess a fictional soldier that is supposed to be carrying papers that they are working on getting. They're trying to figure out the way for those papers to get in the right hands of people that they think that they will be able to trick. The Führer and others along the way that they believe will get to trick them into thinking that they are going to Greece.
And I love it, down to such details. I just love is what kind of ink can you use on the paper that it doesn't drip from the seawater.
Yeah.
And then also there's, like, I think Churchill calls them on, who's gonna be carrying in, what is it, what kind of ink?
Oh, right.
Who's gonna be carrying that kind of ink?
Yeah.
And then, so they're going, so there are all kinds of small little turns because the Nazis are not dumb.
Right.
And they're figuring that Sicily is the place where the Allies are gonna come, so they're planning to put their forces on Sicily to push back the Allies.
Mm-hmm. And then is any great, if you're going to have a strong story involving spies and things like that, you need to have multi-layers of spying going on. So you're finding out about groups within the Third Reich that are we believe to be our sympathizers to the Allied cause, but you're not quite sure. And so you have to have all those kind of things in there too to keep you second guessing along the way. And then you may as well throw in a love story in the mix.
All right, George. Now it's my only. I don't know if I'm negative about it.
Yeah.
I just thought there's an awful lot of time spent on this triangle.
There is, without not a ton of conclusion in that respect, but yes, you're right. It's there's a few layers that in there that weren't totally necessary, but adds an extra bit of heart to the story as well.
And Colin Firth as the top dog here is really, really good, and
he is. And I feel like it's fitting for he and John Madden to work together, the director of the film, because I feel like they are like each is like the acting version or the directing version of the other, where you're just solid. You're just
super cool.
John Madden makes solid movies, and every now and then pops out and wins an Oscar with Shakespeare in Love. Colin Firth is a solid performer, and every now and then pops out and wins an Oscar for acting. I'm blanking on the movie, but
the King's Speech.
Yeah, King's Speech. Thank you. So it's a couple real solid people in this universe working together, which is always something good to count on.
And let me figure out who is the female. Jean.
Yeah, Kelly MacDonald.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
What a love she is.
She is.
George.
Yeah. From one of my all-time favorite movies, No Country for Old Men. Not a huge role in that, but.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wowee, that's a ways back.
Yeah. It's surprising. She's been kicking around for a while.
Oh boy.
Just a nice face to see from time to time in these movies.
And I think you alluded to something which I like very much about this film. And they're not heavy about it because everybody knows that in wartime, when you're separated from your family, it's possible for things to happen. His family, Colin Firth's family, goes over to the States to be safe from the incursion of the Nazis in case they invade. And so he's away from them possibly forever, who knows. Anyways, it's a fraught situation. And this lady is helping them create the fiction. Down to her having her picture in that dead soldier's pocket.
Being very intricately involved.
Oh yeah. So it, I was just watching. As I was watching it, I was saying, no, okay, I can accept it, because there is going to be warfare of a metaphoric kind going on in the ranks.
Yeah.
Just the way we have spies in the ranks, you have infidelity in the ranks, you have romance in the ranks. Because it's a very romantic adventure, and what we know is they're about ready to save tens of thousands of soldiers. I mean, we're not talking 1,000, Jordan. Yeah,
and you never know when unless you know the history of something, you don't know quite how hyperbolic they're being with something, but they talk about this being an incredibly important moment in the war and turning the tides in a certain way. And so,
it turned it right against Hitler. And it turned the war in the favor of the Allies.
Yeah.
Now this is not a small matter.
Right.
And so I thought also when they're waiting to find out whether their project has been successful or not, I liked the quiet tension.
Yeah, absolutely.
And always, I'm a sucker for the teletype.
Yeah. Oh, and here, just the typing sound and absolutely.
Isn't that funny? I was looking at it, I love this.
Well, and we should mention the very sly and fun work-in of Ian Fleming
into
this, which takes this movie to a little bit of another level as you think
All
about
right.
and just these little moments that you're seeing the clockwork in his head going around and finding, creating James Bond.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
he appears first as our narrator,
Mhm.
and then he is a member of the group. I mean,
Yeah,
Ian Fleming.
and from what I read from it, I mean, he really was, like, he came up with a lot of this and
Yes.
stuff, was very intricate and,
Yes.
and playing a part in this
Yeah,
role.
the-
That wasn't just shoehorned in as an
No,
extra
no,
story
right.
or something.
In fact, he may have written the Trojan Horse thing.
Yeah, something with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like to put up the original draft together or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And you'll hear about Q and M and how they got started.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing. Anyway, Jordan Hanalami. This is on Netflix. Nobody has to go anywhere, although you and I like to get them into the theaters.
Mhm.
But we're saying, hey, enjoy yourself at home. It's called Operation Mincemeat, not the
Mhm.
most attractive title.
No.
So, George, what do you advise our audience?
To see it, to know that this is just a really, this feels like a very, I guess, kind of 90s thriller, like in my wheelhouse of just a good adult drama
Yes.
thriller. So, yeah, check it out for sure.
I think. Also, we'll leave by saying no. This is not Weekend at Bernie's.
That's correct.
And I don't think there are very many humorous moments in this film.
No, there's not. There's a couple little funny parts here and there, but it is definitely a serious film for sure.